So, a conversation I'd like to have with you is a conversation about the Bhagavad Gita. And it can be a short conversation.
Yes.
But just, more or less
A short conversation. This is the book that is probably at the core of more people's tradition on the planet than anything else, and has been for the longest
tradition
period of time.
or practice
well, probably both. But what I mean is a short conversation about a book that is infinitely discussed and practiced. And yes, what kind of short conversation are we going to have?
Okay, so just in like we've discussed this before. So, but I want to give people different, their different experiences of the Bhagavad Gita, and there's two other people that I'm going to interview in regards to their experience of it, and just kind of like the lay of the land of, what is the general gist of the book and what you got out of it, what you liked about it. It's not, we don't need to go into. It is 18 chapters and rather complicated. So, but more of an overview and more of your personal overview, like how it resonated in your life, and then after just an overview of what the book is.
It resonates for me because it's essentially a conversation, a dialogue between the limited ego and the infinite self. And that's a fascinating conversation.
That is a fascinating conversation.
So,
the words I put to that are your humanness, including your fears and lack, with your higher self. You're having a conversation with your higher self.
You can use different analogies.
That's the one that I use, just out of comparison.
Yeah. I think I probably used more of an ego description just to highlight the fears aspect and the limited aspect more than because human can encompass a lot more positive qualities.
Yes.
But I was kind of focusing on the more negative ones, like the restrictive ego and that kind of thing. So it's a conversation or dialogue between that limited aspect of self,
which would be Arjuna,
represented by Arjuna, and the infinite, let's say cosmic self, infinite self, which would be represented by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So that dialogue is fascinating because when Arjuna responds, he's responding from fear. He's responding from limitation.
And doubt. There's a lot of doubt.
There's doubt. There's doubt. There's fear. There's anxiety. There's confusion. There's all sorts of things that go along with the limited self, with the self that sees itself as separate from.
And my understanding is that Carl Jung actually read that book and had some commentary on it. Do you have any words about that?
That's his interpretation.
Yeah.
Is that he described it like that. He described that conversation, that dialogue, as being the. In fact, I think he possibly used the words ego self, or ego, limited ego, or something like. I think he used very similar words to that. I don't know the exact words.
I think if you use psychology terms, you'd think it'd be the ego self or something like that, and super consciousness.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which words, but you get the sense of what he.
But it was more from psychology terms.
He'd use analytical psychology terms, and so those are the responses that Arjuna gives. I come from a place of fear and anxiety and limitation and separation, and when Krishna speaks, he speaks from a place of abundance and a place of connection and a place of everything being whole and not being, he's not speaking from a place of fear or separation. He's speaking from a place of union, of connection. And so he uses the word yoga, which is the first time that the word yoga is used in that way to describe that that connection between everything, the connection between
the union meaning of it.
Yeah, the yoking.
Is it true that I heard somewhere, I don't know where I got this in the mythology, but yoga, the first time the word showed up in the written word was in the Bhagavad Gita in that
Yes,
form.
yeah.
So that is
So
true.
that's basically, this is the introduction, or this is really where yoga is described, is outlined.
And a little bit of a description about, so I'll try mine, you can correct me as I go, but in layman's terms, that Arjuna was part of the Raja. They were virtually the kings and queens that they kind of had a job. They were warriors,
Yes,
and
he
they
was
kind
a
of took care
Kashata.
and they took care of the people. That there was an element of that they had the concern for the people,
Yeah.
and that there was more or less a civil war, and and it wasn't just a civil war within a nation, but it was a civil war within a family.
Yes.
That Arjuna found himself on one side of the family lines, and there was other parts of his family on the other side of the civil war. It was his like uncles and cousins, and so that's what they were virtually fighting each other. And what kind of experience that he was having because that was happening. And the dialogue that he had with Krishna when they were doing that. And Krishna was his chariot driver in this situation, in the civil war, and him being able to make sense of what was going on there. So, just in one point of clarity, is I've heard people talk about this, and I want to get your take on it, because I have my own practical use of how I speak about I'm not the doer, and that if I understand it right, is that Krishna was speaking to Arjuna about that, his upset about that this civil war was occurring and that family was, killing family, or needing to, or about to, and that Krishna said something along the lines of that, I am the doer. I am the one, I am the one in each one of these people, creating this action. So they are not the doer, is that there's something bigger than them that's occurring here. Can you is there any, because my own personal feeling about that is that, I hold that in a way that makes sense to me. How do you make sense of that, if I've got that part of the story correctly?
I think that Arjuna's difficulty in that situation, where he found himself about to enter a battle where there were family on both sides of the battlefield, and it felt like a no-win situation to him. He didn't know what the right thing to do was in that situation. It felt like whatever he did, it would be the wrong thing. And so when Krishna speaks, he speaks about the dharma, or the truth of action. And so it's about discerning what your dharma is, at a personal level, at a societal level, at a universal level. What is your truth in the situation? It's not about the outcome of that action. It's not about
Not necessarily what you would like.
it's not necessarily what you'd like. It's about the truth of that action for you. And so, in a sense, if you are following the truth of your specific, if you're following your truth, it falls within the bigger truth of a universal truth. It's personal to you, and it's specific to you, and it's unique to you. But it's also part of because you are a player in the overall universal play, it's also part of the universal truth. So to align yourself with that is to go with your personal truth, and what is
How I looked at that was, so give me any feedback, is that this is, you're not in control of the situation. You don't get a choice to have this not happening because it's happening, and that you are part of the royalty, and this is what it is that's occurring. So what do you need to do? Like, what do you expect of yourself in this situation? Because for me, I don't know if I've got this right, but for me there'd be only two options. Is that either you actually have to go play out what's actually occurring, or right away and choose not to play, with all whatever consequences that were. And I don't know how many people can actually just say I'm not playing. How does that factor in the story? Does that fit at all for you?
Well, look, there's probably always more than two choices in a situation. And I think that it's discerning which of all the possibilities is the most aligned with your truth. But in order to do that, you need to understand the self. So it's not about an isolated or separate action that's separate from self. If you understand the self, then the expression of self is in alignment
Okay,
with
so
action.
it's just really what is true for you.
It's
It's
really
just
what
that
is true
you
for
can
you.
ride away if you want to ride away, because if that's
If
what's
that-
resonate with you, that's what you need
Then
to
that's
do.
what it is.
And if you're sitting here, but don't just sit in doubt. Just don't sit there and go, oh, I really wish any of this isn't happening, and having paralysis. So either you actually do your, if this thing isn't stoppable, then you actually have to either do your part in it, but do whatever resonates with you, whatever your absolute truth is, in the worst possible situation you could think, and owning that. I think the feeling that I got was really about own what that choice is. Own what, don't get caught up in the circumstance. Be your truth in the middle of it to the nth degree that you are.
Yeah, because let's look at the two alternatives. If this is a dialogue between ego, I'm going to use ego now because
Yep.
it's going to
Or
work.
fear for me.
Or fear. If this is a dialogue between that and infinite self, then the ego tries to control the experience. In any situation,
Yes.
we're talking at a very personal level. The ego tries to control experience, whereas the self is only interested in the experience, in having the experience, because it knows
Being
being
what it
being
is in the experience.
because it knows it'll learn through that experience, and so it's not threatened.
And
by
you
the
need to be what you
experience.
are.
Exactly. So, but the ego tries to control the experience, and in trying to control the experience, it separates from the experience. It separates from what's happening. It separates from others. It separates you from the experience. The ego separates. Fear separates. Whereas the self is only interested in the experience.
And alignment. This is my truth. This is what's happening. This is what my truth is in this moment. Whatever I learn in the next half an hour might, if I knew that half an hour ago, I might not have done what I did. But
Sure.
I still had to do what I had to do. And it's really just owning who you are and what your truth is in that experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the essential thing about the Bhagavad Gita, is that the knowing the self is about then the actions are in alignment with that self. Going back to know thyself, it's all about when you know the self, the actions can follow in alignment with that. And that's what the whole concept of yoga is about. When the self is aligned with
All that is.
greater self, all that is, then the actions flow without
With integrity and authenticity
they are
and,
integrated
and
internally
purpose.
and externally.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's supposed
So
to
the
be
external reflects
integration.
the
Exactly.
internal, and it's pure integration at that point. It's absolutely, that is the most integrated.
Self-actualization is a word that's come up for me recently. Is that's really being able to embody. You've just described that for me. So, okay, and then I know there's a lot more in that book, like Samkhya Yoga itself.
That's
It's
the whole-
only in chapter 2 and chapter 5, and that alone is a body of work of a lifetime. So I know there's a lot of material in it,
It's a
and
huge
all of it
amount.
seems to be designed about knowing thyself and understanding what the distinctions are, so that you can actually own who you really are. And
That's the essence of it.
okay.
Yeah, that's the essence.
So I did say a short conversation,
Exactly.
and that is the shortest conversation I think you've ever had on the
Ever on the
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you very much, Gavin Robertson.
Perfect.